The USS Relentless drifted silently through the void of deep space, its massive engines humming with barely contained power. The ship gleamed under the light of distant stars, a testament to human engineering and determination. Though officially classified as an exploration vessel, anyone with a trained eye could spot the weapon ports carefully integrated into its sleek design. Captain John Miller stood on the bridge, his experienced eyes scanning the various displays that monitored the ship's systems. At 53, Miller had the weathered face of someone who had spent his life making difficult decisions. Gray peppered his short dark hair, and deep lines framed his eyes that had seen Earth shrink to a pale blue dot as the Relentless ventured farther than any human ship before it. "Status report," Miller said, his voice calm but commanding. Lieutenant Lisa Clark looked up from her communications station. Her dark hair was pulled back in a regulation bun, and fatigue shadowed her eyes after 8 hours on duty. "All systems. Normal, Captain. We're receiving the usual background radiation, nothing unusual to report." Miller nodded. 3 months into their deep space exploration mission, and the crew had settled into a comfortable routine. They had made several fascinating discoveries: an unusual nebula formation, a planet with potential signs of microbial life, and an asteroid field rich with rare minerals. But they had found no signs of intelligent alien life. Until today. The alert came without warning. A sharp, insistent beeping from the sensor station drew everyone's attention. "Captain," called Officer Ryan Powell, his young face suddenly pale as he studied his readouts. "Something just appeared on our long-range scanners." Miller walked over to Powell's station. "Appeared? You mean it dropped out of FTL?" "No, sir." Powell shook his head, confusion clear in his voice. "I mean it literally appeared. 1 second nothing was there, and the next second, this." The main view screen activated, showing a massive object that dwarfed the Relentless. It was clearly artificial, a ship or station of some kind. Its design was unlike anything in human records. The vessel had a central core that glowed with a pulsing blue light, surrounded by what looked like rotating rings that shifted position every few seconds, rearranging the ship's overall shape. "How did we not detect it sooner?" Miller asked, keeping his voice steady despite the unease growing in his chest. Chief Engineer Alan Frost spoke up from his station. The stocky man's fingers flew across his console as he analyzed the readings. "Their technology must be far beyond ours, Captain. They either have some form of cloaking system we can't comprehend, or they have a method of travel that doesn't use conventional space." Dr. Nicole Peterson, the ship's exobiologist and cultural liaison, had rushed to the bridge when the alert sounded. Her eyes widened at the sight on the screen. "This is it," she whispered. "First contact." Miller turned to communications. "Lieutenant Clark, open all standard greeting channels and begin broadcasting our first contact package." Clark nodded and began the procedures they had practiced countless times during training. The first contact package, a carefully designed collection of mathematical sequences, simple language primers, and basic information about human biology and culture, began transmitting toward the alien vessel. For several tense minutes, nothing happened. The alien ship remained motionless, its strange rings continuing their hypnotic rotation. Then Officer Powell gasped, "Captain, they're scanning us. Some kind of energy beam. It's penetrating our hull." Before Miller could respond, every screen on the bridge flickered. The ship's lights dimmed momentarily, then returned to normal. "Report," Miller ordered. Frost's voice was tight with concern. "It's unlike any scan I've ever seen, Captain. It's going through everything. Metal, circuits, even organic matter. They're mapping our entire ship inside and out." Security Chief Samantha Wright's hand moved instinctively to her sidearm. The tall, athletic woman had served in Earth's military before joining the space program. "Should we raise shields, Captain?" Miller considered for a moment. "No. The scan doesn't appear harmful, and a defensive posture might be misinterpreted. Let's see what they're doing." The scan continued for nearly 10 minutes. Bridge officers reported that it seemed to linger on certain systems, weapons, engines, and the ship's central computer core. "They're not just looking at our technology. Frost said, studying his readings with growing amazement. The pattern suggests they're trying to understand the design philosophy behind it. They're analyzing how we think. Finally, the scan ended. The bridge crew looked at each other, unsure what to expect next. Lieutenant Clark's console lit up. "Captain, we're receiving a transmission. I think it's translating our language in real time. Put it through," Miller ordered. A voice filled the bridge, oddly flat and mechanical, but clearly understandable. "Vessel of unknown origin. You have entered space administered by the Galactic Confederation. Identify yourselves and state your purpose." Miller straightened his uniform and nodded to Clark to open a channel. "This is Captain John Miller of the United Earth ship Relentless. We are on a peaceful mission of exploration from the planet Earth. We mean no harm and seek only knowledge and peaceful contact with other intelligent species." There was a pause before the response came. "Your vessel contains multiple weapon systems. Explain this contradiction between your stated peaceful intent and your obvious preparation for conflict." Miller exchanged glances with his senior officers. This was delicate territory. "Our ship is primarily designed for exploration," Miller replied carefully. "The defensive systems are a precaution against natural space hazards and potential threats in unknown territory. Humanity has learned through its history that exploration and the ability to protect oneself often go hand in hand." Another pause, longer this time. "Your explanation is noted but insufficient. Prepare to be boarded. Representatives of the Galactic Confederation will inspect your vessel and assess your species' intentions. Any resistance will be interpreted as hostile action." The transmission ended abruptly. Miller looked around at his crew. Their faces showed a mixture of fear, excitement, and determination. First contact was happening, but not in the way any of them had imagined. "Well," Miller said with a calmness he didn't entirely feel, "it seems we have guests coming. Let's prepare to receive them." He turned to Wright. "Security teams on standby only. Full cooperation unless I give the order otherwise." To Peterson, he added, "Doctor, I want you front and center for this. Your expertise in xenobiology and cultural exchange just became the most valuable skill on this ship." As the crew rushed to prepare, Miller took a moment to look again at the alien vessel on the screen. Humanity had always wondered if they were alone in the universe. Now they had their answer, but the real question remained. Was this the beginning of a new friendship or humanity's first interstellar conflict? The answer would come soon enough. The crew of the Relentless gathered in the main docking bay. Captain Miller stood at the front with Dr. Peterson and Security Chief Wright flanking him on either side. Behind them stood a small reception committee of senior officers. The Ecker security team was positioned discreetly around the edges of the room as Miller had ordered. "Remember," Miller said quietly to his officers, "we represent all of humanity in this moment." The massive outer doors of the docking bay slid open. A small shuttlecraft entered, unlike any vessel the humans had seen before. It seemed to shimmer and shift as it moved, its surface reflecting light in ways that didn't seem possible. The craft settled gently on the deck, making almost no sound. For several long seconds, nothing happened. Then, a section of the shuttle's hull simply disappeared, revealing an opening. 5 figures emerged. The aliens were diverse in appearance. The one in front was tall and slender, with bluish skin that seemed to have a faint glow. It had 4 arms and moved with fluid grace. Behind it came a squat, broad creature with thick, bark-like skin and 3 eyes arranged in a triangle on its face. The third alien floated rather than walked, a cloud-like being with tendrils that shifted and moved constantly. The fourth was almost human-looking except for its golden skin and completely black eyes. The fifth alien stayed partly in shadow, its features hard to make out except for a pair of antennae that moved independently of each other. Dr. Peterson inhaled sharply but kept her composure. Years of training for this moment hadn't fully prepared her for the reality. The tall blue alien approached and stopped a few paces from Miller. It raised its upper right hand in what might have been a greeting. "I am Javex," it said, its voice surprisingly melodic. The words seemed to form directly in the humans' minds, though they could see the alien's mouth moving. "I speak for the Galactic Confederation inspection team." Miller stepped forward and bowed slightly. "I am Captain John Miller of the United Earth ship Relentless. We welcome you aboard and hope this meeting marks the beginning of peaceful relations between our peoples." Javex tilted its head. "Your language center is primitive but functional. We have adjusted our neural translators accordingly." It gestured to its companions. "These are representatives from various member species of the Confederation. We have been tasked with assessing your vessel and your species." The squat, bark-skinned alien moved forward. "I am Gorv," it said, its voice deep and rumbling. "Security Overseer, your ship's weapon systems violate Confederation protocols for first contact species." Captain Miller remained calm. "As I explained earlier, our weapons are defensive in nature." "That distinction is meaningless," Gorv replied. "A weapon is a weapon, regardless of your claimed intent." Before the conversation could become more tense, Dr. Peterson stepped forward. "Perhaps we could show you around our vessel? We're quite proud of the scientific and exploratory capabilities of the Relentless." Javex regarded her with large, pupilless eyes. "You are this vessel's diplomatic representative." "I'm Dr. Nicole Peterson, our exobiologist and cultural liaison," she explained. "I've spent my career studying the potential forms alien life might take and preparing for peaceful first contact." "Interesting," said the floating, cloud-like alien in a whispery voice. "Your species anticipated meeting others yet came armed. This contradiction fascinates me." It moved closer to Peterson, tendrils gently shifting in the air around its main body. "I am Liff, scholar of comparative xenology." The tour of the ship began with the science labs, which impressed the aliens. Liff in particular spent long moments examining the human research equipment, commenting on the novel approaches humans had developed. The golden-skinned, human-like alien introduced itself as Iran, a cultural observer. It spoke little, but watched, everything with those unnerving black eyes. The fifth alien finally emerged fully into the light as they toured the medical bay. It had an insectoid appearance with a hard exoskeleton and compound eyes. "I am Trexie," it said. "Biological systems analyst." It seemed particularly interested in the ship's life support systems and the medical technology. Throughout the tour, questions about the Relentless's weapon systems kept coming up. When they reached the bridge, Gorv became more insistent. "Your navigation systems are integrated with targeting computers," the security overseer noted. "This suggests your exploration is always prepared to become aggression." Chief Engineer Frost, who had joined the tour, tried to explain. "It's an efficiency measure. Our resources are limited, so systems serve multiple functions. Or it is deliberate deception," Gorv countered, "a method to hide military capacity behind civilian purpose." Captain Miller felt his patience wearing thin. "With respect, you're judging us by standards we weren't aware of until today. Humanity has always combined exploration with self-defense." Javex raised a four-fingered hand. "Perhaps we should explain more clearly. The Galactic Confederation has maintained peace in this sector for over 12,000 of your years. This peace is built on strict principles, including the separation of military and civilian space technology." In the ship's conference room, the aliens explained the Confederation's structure. Hundreds of species, spread across thousands of star systems, all following the same basic rules that had kept the peace for millennia. Member species are forbidden from maintaining weapons platforms in space, Javex explained. Exploration vessels must be purely scientific. Military technology is permitted only for planetary defense, never for deep space missions. "But that leaves explorers vulnerable," Lieutenant Clark pointed out. "The Confederation provides protection to all member species," Iran said, speaking up for the first time at length. Its voice was oddly musical. "No protection is needed because no threats exist within Confederation space." "And outside it?" Miller asked. The aliens exchanged glances. "The Confederation's boundaries extend farther than your species will travel." "In many generations," Gorv said dismissively. As the meeting continued, Officer Powell entered the conference room and whispered something to Miller. The captain's expression remained neutral, but he quickly shared the information with Dr. Peterson. "Our long-range sensors have detected more ships approaching," Miller finally said to the aliens. "Are they also from the Confederation?" Javex nodded. "We have called for an escort vessel. Your ship will be accompanied to the nearest Confederation outpost for further assessment." "Assessment of what?" Miller asked, a note of concern entering his voice. "Your species' readiness for contact," Gorv answered bluntly. "Not all new species are permitted to retain knowledge of the Confederation if they are deemed unprepared." Chill ran through the human officers at this statement. "Are you suggesting our memories could be altered?" Dr. Peterson asked, her scientific curiosity momentarily overcoming her diplomatic caution. "That would be one option," Trexie said matter-of-factly. "Though your neural structures are unusual, it would be challenging but possible." Captain Miller stood up, his face showing determination. "I think we need to be clear about something. While we're eager for peaceful contact, humanity will not submit to memory alteration or any similar procedure. We are an independent species making our own way in the galaxy." The conference room fell silent. The 5 alien representatives looked at each other, communicating in some way the humans couldn't perceive. Finally, Javex spoke. "Your position is noted, Captain. However, the decision is not yours to make. The Confederation Council will determine the appropriate course of action." As the aliens left to return to their shuttle, promising to come back the next day to continue their inspection, Miller gathered his senior officers. "Options?" he asked quietly. "We're outgunned and know nothing about their technology." "Right," said. "But I don't like the sound of this escort." "Me neither," Miller agreed. "Lieutenant Clark, discreetly monitor all communications from their shuttle. Frost, I want a complete but hidden review of all ship systems. Let's find out exactly what their scan discovered about us." As the officers dispersed to carry out their tasks, Miller looked out the viewport at the alien vessel that still dwarfed, the Relentless. First contact had finally happened, but not in the way humanity had hoped. Instead of greeting new friends, they might have just met their first interstellar threat. The Relentless moved through space alongside the much larger alien vessel. From the outside, everything appeared normal. Inside, the crew worked with quiet urgency. In the secure communications room, Chief Engineer Frost and Lieutenant Clark hunched over a terminal, their faces lit by the blue glow of the screen. They had created a secure channel that they hoped the aliens couldn't detect. "Their scan left things behind," Frost said, pointing to lines of code that scrolled across his screen. "Small programs, hiding in our systems. They're watching us." Clark frowned. "Monitoring programs? What are they looking for?" "Everything." Frost ran his hand through his thinning hair. "How we respond to stress, how quickly we can bring systems online, how efficiently we operate the ship. They're not just concerned about our weapons, they're evaluating us as a potential threat." In his private quarters, Captain Miller received their report with a grim expression. Science Officer Daniel Green had joined them, bringing equally troubling news. "The alien vessel is transmitting data about us constantly," Green said. "Officer Reyes in astrophysics noticed it. Energy pulses, directed toward coordinates beyond our sensor range. So they're reporting back to someone." Miller's voice was thoughtful. "What have they learned about our capabilities?" Frost managed a small smile. "Less than they think. The monitoring programs only see what we allow them to see." He held up a small device. "We've isolated our critical systems. They're watching a show, Captain." Miller nodded. "Good work. What about our weapon systems?" "That's the interesting part," Green said. "Their scans significantly underestimated us. They detected our conventional weapons, the railguns and missile systems, but completely missed the more advanced systems." Clark looked surprised. "How is that possible? Their technology seems far beyond ours." "Not beyond," Frost corrected. "Just different. Their technology evolved along different paths. Our quantum disruption systems and adaptive shields operate On principles they apparently haven't explored. They missed them because they weren't looking for them, Green added. It's like giving a medieval knight a smartphone. He wouldn't recognize it as a communication device because it's beyond his frame of reference. Miller considered this information. So we have capabilities they don't know about. That could be an advantage if things go badly. He paused. But our priority remains peaceful resolution. I want options that don't involve combat. The meeting was interrupted by a call from the bridge. Captain, Officer Ryan Powell's voice came through the comm system. We're approaching some kind of space station. It's massive. Miller and his officers returned to the bridge. On the main screen, they could see a sprawling structure orbiting a gas giant planet. The station consisted of multiple rotating rings connected to a central hub. Ships of various designs moved around it like bees around a hive. That's their outpost? Wright asked, her trained eye assessing the structure. It looks like it could house millions. Confederation space is vast, Dr. Peterson reminded them. This is probably just one of many such stations. As they approached, a transmission came through. Javex appeared on the screen. Captain Miller, prepare your vessel for docking procedures. You and your senior officers will be brought before representatives of the Confederation Security Council for assessment. What about my crew? Miller asked. They will remain aboard your vessel under supervision. Do not be concerned. This is standard procedure for first contact situations. When the transmission ended, Miller turned to his officers. Right, you'll remain aboard as acting captain. Keep the crew calm and ready for anything. Wright nodded, understanding the unspoken message. Be prepared for escape if necessary. The rest of you will accompany me to this hearing. Peterson, Clark, Greenfrost, we need to present humanity in the best possible light. As they prepared to leave, Petty Officer Kevin Reyes approached Miller. The young man was usually assigned to the astrophysics lab, but had been working with Green on analyzing the alien vessel. Captain, there's something you should know, Reyes said quietly. I've been monitoring their energy readings. The data they're transmitting about us? It's not just going to their leadership, it's being broadcast to multiple coordinates. Different factions, I think. Miller frowned. You're suggesting the Confederation isn't as unified as they want us to believe? It's just an observation, sir, Reyes said. But the transmission patterns suggest compartmentalized information distribution. Miller clapped the young officer on the shoulder. Good work, Reyes. Keep digging. 2 hours later, Miller and his team were escorted through the massive space station by Javex and two silent, armored beings that served as guards. The humans tried not to stare at the variety of alien species they passed. Some looked almost human-like, while others were so strange that Peterson had trouble even categorizing their biological basis. How many species are in the Confederation? Peterson asked Javex. 327 full members, the alien replied, and 42 protectorate species that are still developing toward full membership status. And where would humans fall? Miller asked. Javex's 4 arms made a complex gesture. That is what the council will determine. They entered a large chamber where representatives of 12 different species sat in a semicircle. Their appearances varied wildly, but all regarded the humans with expressions that seemed to convey the same emotion across species barriers. Suspicion. Miller felt a chill as he realized what was happening. This wasn't just a hearing, it was a trial. The central figure, a tall being with crystalline features that caught the light in hypnotic patterns, spoke in a resonant voice. We have reviewed the preliminary data on your species and vessel. We find disturbing indications of aggressive tendencies and technological developments that violate our most basic principles. Miller stepped forward. With respect, we cannot violate principles we were unaware of until yesterday. Humanity has always combined exploration with self-protection. A peaceful species would have no need for such protection, argued another council member, a being composed of what looked like swirling liquid contained within a translucent membrane. As the questioning continued, Lieutenant Richard Bailey, the tactical officer who had accompanied them at Miller's request, remained quiet, observing. Bailey rarely spoke in formal settings, but his observational skills were unmatched. He leaned close to Miller during a pause in the proceedings. "Captain," he whispered, "they're not making eye contact with each other. There's tension here that has nothing to do with us." Miller had noticed it too. Subtle signs that the Confederation representatives weren't as united as they pretended. Some seemed genuinely curious about humans, while others were openly hostile. There were factions here working against each other. When the Council suggested that Earth would need to be properly guided into Confederation membership, a process that would include removing weapons technology from all human vessels and establishing alien outposts throughout the solar system, Miller knew they had reached a critical moment. "Before we continue," Miller said carefully, "I would like to request a private meeting with HFY. There are aspects of human society that may be relevant to your deliberations but require more nuanced explanation." The crystalline being considered this request, its faceted head tilting slightly. "Granted. But be aware, Captain Miller, that the Council's patience has limits. Your species' future in this galaxy may well depend on the outcome of these discussions." As Miller and HFY left the chamber, the captain caught Bailey's eye. The lieutenant gave a nearly imperceptible nod. He would continue observing the Council members, looking for weaknesses and divisions they might use to humanity's advantage. Miller knew they were walking a dangerous line. Somehow they needed to turn this confrontation into an opportunity. Before, the Confederation decided that humanity was too dangerous to be allowed free access to the stars. Captain Miller followed HFY into a small plain room away from the main council chamber. The door sealed behind them with a soft hiss. For a moment, neither spoke. "You wish to speak privately," HFY said finally. "This room is secure from monitoring." Miller studied the alien's face, trying to read its expression. Even after their brief time together, he felt he was getting better at interpreting the subtle shifts in the blue-skinned being's features. "I think we both know this. Hearing isn't proceeding well," Miller began. "But I suspect the real issues aren't being discussed openly." HFY's forearms moved in a complex pattern that Miller had come to recognize as a sign of discomfort. "Explain your meaning, Captain." "The Confederation isn't unified in its opinion of us," Miller said directly. "I've observed the Council members. They don't agree on how to handle humanity." HFY was silent for a long moment. Then, to Miller's surprise, the alien moved to a panel on the wall and pressed a sequence of symbols. A faint hum filled the room. "Additional security measures," HFY explained. "What I am about to tell you could be considered treasonous by some members of the Council." The alien's posture changed, becoming less formal. "You are correct, Captain. The Confederation is fracturing. For 10,000 years we maintained peace through strict technological control. No species was allowed to develop beyond certain parameters. You suppressed innovation," Miller said, understanding dawning. "We guided it along safe paths," HFY corrected. "But your ship—" The alien's voice took on a strange tone that Miller interpreted as awe. "Your vessel contains technological approaches that our scientists deemed impossible, or that the Council deliberately prevented from being developed." "Like our weapon systems?" "Not just your weapons. Your adaptive shield technology operates on principles that were theorized by Confederation scientists 5,000 years ago, but were classified as too unpredictable to pursue. Your quantum computing methods took a completely different path than ours, solving problems we thought unsolvable." Miller felt a chill. "You're afraid of us." "Not I," HFY said quickly. "But many on the Council, yes. Your species achieved in decades what others needed centuries to develop, even with guidance. Your adaptive thinking, your integration of systems. Your ship was designed to evolve, Captain. No Confederation vessel does that." Back in the Council chamber, the rest of the human delegation waited nervously. Dr. Peterson studied the various alien representatives, her scientific mind cataloging the incredible diversity of life forms. Lieutenant Clark kept her eyes on the exits, noting security positions out of habit. Chief Engineer Frost examined the chamber's technology with professional interest. Lieutenant Bailey, however, was watching the Council members themselves. As a tactical officer, he had been trained to observe enemies for weaknesses. These aliens might not be enemies yet, but his skills were proving valuable. They're arguing, he whispered to Green. Look at how they're positioned. The ones on the left won't look at the ones on the right. Green nodded slightly. Different factions? I think so. And look at the younger-looking ones. They seem more curious than hostile. Meanwhile, in the secure room, Javex continued to reveal the truth to Miller. The oldest species in the Confederation have maintained control for millennia, the alien explained. They believe that strict technological guidance prevents the warfare that nearly destroyed their civilizations in ancient times. But many younger species have begun to question this approach, and our arrival has intensified this division, Miller guessed. Yes. Reports about your ship's capabilities were leaked to some younger Confederation members. Questions are being asked. If humans could develop such technology independently, why are we still bound by ancient restrictions? Miller considered this new information carefully. What happens now? Will they try to erase our knowledge of your existence? Javex's upper arms made a negative gesture. That was proposed, but it would be difficult to implement. Your neural structures are unusual. The typical memory alteration procedures would be unpredictable, meaning they might destroy our minds entirely, Miller said grimly. A risk some council members consider acceptable. Javex moved closer. Others have proposed more drastic measures, quarantining your entire solar system, destroying your vessel as a warning. Miller felt cold anger rise within him. We would defend ourselves. I know, which is why I sought this private conversation. There is another path, Captain, but it requires courage from both of us. On the Relentless, Security Chief Wright paced the bridge. The ship was under guard, with alien observers posted at key locations throughout the vessel. Though they were polite, the situation was clear. The humans were not free to leave. Officer Reyes approached Wright, keeping his voice low. Chief, I've been continuing the energy analysis of the station. There's unusual activity in their communication arrays. Multiple tight beam transmissions to distant locations. Meaning? News about us is spreading throughout their territory. And there's something else, power fluctuations in the docking clamps holding us in place. Wright narrowed her eyes. They're preparing for the possibility that we might try to leave, or that others might try to take us, Reyes suggested. I don't think everyone here is on the same side. In the council chamber, Bailey suddenly straightened. Something's happening, he whispered to the others. Several council members had received communications and were now arguing openly, their translator devices struggling to keep up with the rapid exchanges. The crystalline being who led the council raised appendages for silence. We will recess while we address certain developments. The humans will remain here under guard. As most of the council members filed out, Bailey moved closer to Peterson. Did you notice? The Liquid One and 3 others stayed behind. They're watching us, but also watching the exits. You think they might help us? Peterson asked quietly. I think they have their own agenda, Bailey replied. And right now that might be the best we can hope for. The door opened, and Miller returned. With Javex, the captain's face was serious but determined. He gathered his officers quickly. The situation is more complex than we realized, he told them in a low voice. The Confederation is divided over how to handle us. Our ship's design has caused quite a stir. Apparently, we've done things they thought impossible. Or prohibited, Javex added. What's our play, Captain? Frost asked. Miller looked at each of his officers. We're going to address the full council when they return, but not as supplicants, as potential allies. Javex believes there's support among the younger species for a different kind of relationship with humanity. And the older species? Clark asked. The ones who want to quarantine Earth or worse? They're losing influence, Javex said, but they are still dangerous. Your captain has agreed to share certain technological innovations with the Confederation. Not weapons, but your approaches to adaptive systems and ecological science. A technological exchange? Green looked intrigued. What do we get in return? Knowledge, Miller said simply. Star charts, scientific data gathered over thousands of years. And most importantly, recognition as equals, not a primitive species. To be guided or controlled. Bailey nodded toward the remaining council members who were watching them from across the room. And them? Are they friends or foes? Javex's gaze followed Bailey's. Neither yet. They represent species who see opportunity in humanity's appearance. They have their own reasons for wanting changes in the Confederation's structure. In other words, Miller said grimly, we're about to step into the middle of an alien political struggle that's been brewing for centuries. Our best hope is to turn this crisis into an opportunity. Not just for Earth, but for all the species who want something better than the current system. The great doors to the chamber began to open. Council members were returning, their faces and postures showing tension and disagreement. Here we go, Miller said quietly. Remember, we represent all of humanity now. Whatever happens in the next few hours might determine our species' place in the galaxy for generations to come. The council chamber fell silent as the crystalline being who chaired the proceedings took a central position. Behind the alien leader, the other council members arranged themselves in what appeared to be meaningful groupings. Miller noted that the divisions Bailey had observed were now openly displayed. This special session of the Confederation Security Council will resume, the crystalline being announced. We face an unprecedented situation. The human vessel contains technologies that violate our most sacred principles of guided development. Captain Miller stepped forward. His voice was steady and clear. With respect, we cannot violate principles we never knew existed. Humanity developed its technology independently, following paths that made sense to us. A ripple of translated whispers spread through the chamber. That is precisely the concern, said a council member whose body seemed to be composed of interlocking metal plates. Unguided species inevitably develop weapons and bring war to the stars. This has been proven throughout our history. Miller looked directly at the being. Yet here we are on a mission of peaceful exploration. We integrated defensive capabilities into our ship not out of aggression, but from a practical understanding that the unknown can be dangerous. Across the chamber, Chief Engineer Frost had been studying the station's visible technology with growing interest. While Miller spoke, Frost quietly approached him and whispered something in his ear. The captain gave a subtle nod. The human speaks of peace while their vessel hides weapons we cannot even detect, argued the liquid form alien. They are deceptive by nature. Javex moved to stand beside Miller. Perhaps what we see as deception is merely innovation. The human approach to technology integration is unlike anything in our records, which is precisely why they are dangerous. The crystalline leader's voice resonated through the chamber. The founders established our technological guidance protocols to prevent exactly this kind of unpredictable development. Frost stepped forward, addressing the council directly for the first time. If I may speak? He asked, looking to Miller, who nodded. I've been studying your station's technology since our arrival, Frost said, and I've made an interesting discovery. The power core that runs this entire station isn't your own technology, is it? The chamber went completely silent. It's from the Precursors, Frost continued. The quantum resonance patterns are distinctive. You didn't develop it, you found it and learned to use it. Dr. Peterson's eyes widened as she understood the implications. You've been using technology from a civilization that came before you, she said. There's no shame in that. Humans have built upon previous discoveries throughout our history. The difference, Miller said carefully, is that we acknowledge this process. We celebrate building upon the work of those who came before us. The liquid alien moved forward. How could you possibly know about the precursor technology? The Council has kept this knowledge restricted for millennia. Frost smiled slightly. I recognize the quantum signature. It's similar to theoretical models we developed on Earth. We call it harmonic resonance integration, the principle behind our adaptive shield technology. One of the younger council members, a being with feathery appendages and glowing spots on its body, moved toward the center of the chamber. This human speaks truth. Many of us have questioned why certain technological paths are forbidden. We were told they were impossible or dangerous, yet these humans have developed them independently. The crystalline leader's voice became harsh. Enough. The protocols have maintained peace for 12,000 years. We will not abandon them because of one aberrant species. Miller addressed the entire council. We don't ask you to abandon your principles. We offer an opportunity to expand them. Humanity doesn't seek to disrupt your peace. We wish to enhance it through exchange and cooperation. Meanwhile, on the Relentless, Security Chief Wright received an urgent message from Officer Reyes. Chief, something's happening. The power fluctuations in the docking clamps are increasing, and I'm detecting movement among the ships surrounding the station. Wright moved to a viewport. Several smaller vessels were changing position, moving closer to the Relentless. Are they preparing to attack us? Reyes shook his head. I don't think so. Their positioning looks more protective, like they're placing themselves between us and the larger vessels. Back in the council chamber, the debate had become heated. The council was clearly divided, with younger species supporting interaction. With humans, while older, more established members argued for containment or more drastic measures. The feathered alien spoke again. For too long, we have accepted the claim that the Precursor technology cannot be improved upon. Yet these humans have demonstrated that new approaches are possible. Approaches that could lead to weapons that would destroy us all. The metal-plated being countered. Miller raised his hands for attention. You speak of weapons, but that's not what makes our ship special. The heart of the Relentless isn't its defensive systems, it's its adaptability. He nodded to Lieutenant Clark, who activated a small holographic projector they had brought from the ship. It displayed schematics of the Relentless's adaptive shield system. This technology wasn't designed primarily as a weapon, Miller explained. It was created to protect our crew against unknown space phenomena. Its ability to analyze and adapt to new threats comes from the same philosophy that drives all human exploration. The belief that we can learn from the unknown rather than just defend against it. Science Officer Green stepped forward to continue the explanation. Our quantum computing methods took a fundamentally different approach than yours, allowing for novel solutions to problems you've long considered unsolvable. The council members studied the holographic display with a mixture of suspicion and fascination. What exactly are you proposing, Captain? The crystalline leader asked, its tone slightly less hostile. A partnership, Miller said simply. Humanity shares its technological innovations, not weapons but our adaptive systems, our medical breakthroughs, our approaches to environmental restoration. In exchange, we gain access to your knowledge of the galaxy and recognition as equals. Javex moved to stand beside Miller. I support this proposal. The humans have demonstrated that there are paths of development the founders never considered. Perhaps it is time for the Confederation to evolve as well. The chamber erupted in discussion. Multiple factions argued openly now. Miller noticed that the younger species were gaining support, with several previously neutral council members moving to join them. Suddenly, a notification chime sounded throughout the chamber. The crystalline leader reluctantly activated a communication display visible to all. What is the meaning of this? The leader demanded. A new alien appeared on the screen, representing a species Miller hadn't seen before. The Coalition of Developing Worlds has called an emergency session of the full Confederation Assembly. The human vessel's capabilities have been made known throughout our space. Delegations from 42 worlds demand immediate review of the technological restriction protocols. Except, crystalline beings' facets darkened in what Miller interpreted as anger or distress. This is not the proper procedure. The procedures were established by the founding charter, the alien on the screen interrupted. Any significant new development must be addressed by the full assembly, not just the Security Council. As the transmission ended, the chamber fell into chaos. The council was splitting openly now, with the older species conferring urgently while the younger members approached the humans. The feathered alien addressed Miller directly. Captain, your arrival has accelerated a process that has been building for centuries. Many of us have questioned the wisdom of restricting technological development so severely. What happens now? Miller asked. Change, Javex said simply. The full assembly will meet. The younger species have been waiting for a catalyst like this. Your ship has provided evidence that there are different paths to advancement than those prescribed by the founders. 3 days later, Captain Miller stood on the bridge of the Relentless, watching as a fleet of Confederation vessels escorted them through space, not as prisoners, but as honored guests bound for the Confederation's central world. The ship had become a symbol for reform within the vast alien society. Hard to believe a routine exploration mission would end up like this, Lieutenant Clark said, standing beside him. Miller smiled slightly. Humanity has always had a knack for stumbling into history. On the main screen, the path ahead showed countless stars and the promise of new discoveries. Humanity's first steps into the wider galaxy hadn't gone as anyone expected, but they had found their place, not as subjects to be guided, but as partners bringing fresh perspectives to an ancient order. The galaxy would never be the same, not because humans had brought war to the stars, but because they had brought something the ancient Confederation had lost centuries ago: innovation born from struggle and strength tempered by hope.